You might not believe in black magic, and honestly, I wouldn't blame you. It sounds like something out of a movie, right? Eye of Newt, shadowy cloaks, and people whispering in candlelit corners. But let me ask you this. Have you ever had a streak of bad luck so strange, so relentless? It made you feel like the universe had a personal grudge against you. Like every door you knock on slams shut, every relationship turns toxic. And your health? Don't even get me started. Here's the wild part. What if it's not bad luck? What if someone, somewhere, is pulling strings behind the scenes, sending you waves of negativity without ever lifting a finger in your presence? Black magic doesn't need your belief to work. It operates like gravity. Whether you understand it or not, it still drags you down. So today, I'm going to show you 5 chilling signs that someone might be using black magic against you. And more importantly, how to finally break free. Don't skip this. Your peace, your energy, maybe even your life could depend on it. And if you want to stay protected and empowered, hit that subscribe button and let's walk through the shadows together. Science is catching up to what the ancients already knew. Throughout human history, every great civilization, from the temples of ancient Egypt to the forests of pre-colonial Africa, from the mountaintops of the Andes to the courts of medieval Europe, spoke of unseen forces capable of shaping human lives. Some called it the evil eye. Others believed in curses, hexes, or spiritual attacks. They didn't all use the word black magic, but they all agreed on one thing. Energy moves through people, and that energy can be used to heal or to harm. Today, in our age of technology and information, we've grown skeptical of anything that isn't measurable. We want proof. We want data. But here's where things get interesting. Modern science, especially quantum physics, has started confirming what the ancients already knew. Researchers talk about non-local consciousness, the observer effect, and the ability of intention to affect physical outcomes. These are scientific ways of describing something very old, that thoughts and energy have real impact. But the most dangerous position a person can take is to assume none of this matters. Because when you dismiss something, you stop defending against it. That's why skeptics are often the most vulnerable. While they laugh at the idea of spiritual attacks, they leave their mental and emotional doors wide open. They don't cleanse their minds. They don't reflect on the energy around them. They don't notice the shift when something dark enters their space. It's like refusing to believe in fire and then being surprised when your hand gets burned. Black magic, spiritual attack, or negative intention, whatever name you prefer, operates through energy. And it doesn't ask for your belief. Just as you don't have to understand electricity to get shocked, you don't need to believe in dark energy for it to affect you. It works in subtle ways, not through loud events, but quiet erosion. You start feeling tired for no reason. Your thoughts get heavier. Things in your life, relationships, health, even finances, begin to fall apart. At first, you explain it away. Stress, coincidence, just a bad month. But deep down, something doesn't feel right. Our ancestors would have seen these signs clearly. They had rituals, protections, practices to shield themselves. But we've traded that wisdom for convenience. We scroll, we numb, we dismiss anything that sounds mystical. And in doing so, we've left ourselves open to forces we no longer recognize. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes unexpectedly relevant. The Stoics didn't speak of black magic, but they deeply understood the power of inner discipline. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's not just ancient wisdom, it's spiritual armor. Because if your mind is unguarded, any outside force can take root. But if your mind is trained, calm, and aware, nothing can dominate you, not even the darkest intention. So if you've been feeling off, like something invisible is weighing you down, don't ignore it. Awareness is the first step. And that's why I'm sharing with you today the 5 clear signs that someone may be using black magic to target you. The first one might already explain why, despite your best efforts, you still wake up each day feeling like your energy is already gone. Number 1. Persistent fatigue and energy drain. Have you ever woken up in the morning feeling like you never slept at all? Not the kind of tiredness that comes from staying up too late or sleeping on the wrong pillow. This is something heavier. It clings to your bones, clouds your thoughts, and no amount of coffee or motivational quotes can shake it loose. You go to bed early, try meditation, take vitamins, maybe even book a few appointments, blood work, scans, sleep studies, but everything comes back normal. You're told it's just stress, aging, or nothing at all. And yet, deep inside, you know something isn't right. This isn't ordinary fatigue. It's a slow, deliberate drain. And the reason it feels so foreign is because it is foreign. In many cases, this exhaustion is the first sign of an energy-based attack, what many cultures have long referred to as black magic. Let's talk about Ryan. He's not the kind of guy you'd expect to be vulnerable to anything spiritual. A Midwestern father of 3 and a small business owner, Ryan had just secured a major contract that would double his company's revenue. It was a huge moment, something he'd worked toward for nearly a decade. But 2 weeks after the deal closed, his energy started to vanish. Not gradually, suddenly. He'd wake up feeling like he hadn't slept at all. His limbs felt like weights. He started canceling meetings. He couldn't focus. At first, he blamed the workload, then burnout. But the exhaustion kept escalating, and his health began to falter. Strange symptoms appeared. Migrating joint pain, stomach issues with no clear cause, skin flare-ups that came and went. Every doctor he visited gave the same answer. You're fine. But Ryan knew he wasn't. The turning point came when his wife, out of desperation, took him to see a spiritual counselor. There, they discovered something chilling. A former competitor, someone Ryan had beaten for the contract, had reportedly been working with a practitioner who specialized in blocking energy. The intention? Disrupt his success. While Ryan initially laughed it off, the timing, the symptoms, and the mysterious way his body resisted every form of healing made him reconsider. And once they began clearing rituals and protective work, something shifted. Slowly, his energy returned. The symptoms faded. Within a month, he was functioning again. What makes this so insidious is that it bypasses the physical and strikes the energetic, your life force, your vitality. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. It doesn't matter whether you believe in this or not. Black magic, spiritual attacks, energetic manipulation, whatever label you give it, operates independently of belief. Just like you don't need to believe in gravity to fall, you don't need to believe in energy attacks to suffer the consequences. And what's worse, this kind of attack often shows up precisely when you're rising. Right before a promotion, a move, a new relationship. Because that's when jealousy is strongest. That's when your energy shines brightest. That's what draws attention, and in some cases, malice. This is why Stoic philosophy is not just relevant, it's necessary. The Stoics taught us to observe ourselves with clarity, to strengthen the mind so that external forces, no matter how chaotic or malicious, cannot destroy inner peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it." But what if your very judgment is being clouded by something unnatural? What if your clarity is being fogged not by your own thoughts, but by something external working to distort your inner world? This is the power of awareness. Because once you see the attack, you can start to resist it. You can fortify the mind. You can purify your energy, and you can break the cycle. If you're experiencing relentless fatigue, unexplained health issues, and a sense that your life is slipping through your fingers, no matter how hard you try, this may be more than just burnout. It may be the first sign of a spiritual attack. And recognizing it is the first step to taking back your power. In the next sign, we'll look at how these forces move beyond the body and begin to turn your own relationships against you. Stay until the end for actionable steps that will redefine your experience. Number 2, sudden relationship breakdowns. Have you ever had a relationship, one that once felt solid, warm, and dependable, suddenly unravel without warning? Not a gradual drift, not the result of some big fight or betrayal, but an abrupt and confusing shift. One day, you and your partner, friend, or sibling are sharing laughter, inside jokes, and plans for the future. The next, it's as if you're speaking two different languages. Misunderstandings begin to stack up like bricks, and suddenly you're living behind emotional walls neither of you intended to build. This kind of unexplained rupture, especially when it spreads across more than one relationship, is one of the clearest and most painful signs of a spiritual attack. Often linked to black magic or intentional energy manipulation, it usually begins subtly. You say something innocent, and the other person reacts as if you've insulted them. You text a lighthearted message, and it's taken the wrong way. The breakdown starts with small, almost imperceptible misalignments. But then come the irrational arguments, blow-ups over nothing, emotional outbursts that don't feel like they belong to you. You find yourself saying things you don't mean, or reacting with anger and suspicion toward someone who once brought you comfort. And worse, you don't know why. Many describe it as if a fog has descended, like there's a filter distorting everything you hear and say, turning kindness into threats, intimacy into conflict. I once worked with a woman named Denise. She was a therapist, deeply grounded, rational, not prone to superstition. But when her long-term relationship began to collapse for no reason she could understand, she noticed something strange. At the same time, her partner became distant and angry. Her best friend also stopped returning calls. Her younger brother, once her closest confidant, suddenly accused her of being selfish and cold. None of it made sense. It was as if her world had turned against her overnight. Denise began to question herself, her worth, her reality. Only later did she learn that someone from her professional past, bitter over an old grievance, had been working with a spiritual practitioner to tie up her energy. The aim was to cut her off from her roots, her strength, her relationships, leaving her vulnerable and alone. And that's the darkest part of these attacks. They aren't just about conflict, they're about isolation. Once your support system starts to collapse, you lose the people who would have noticed what's really going on. You lose your mirrors, those who could tell you, this isn't you. This is how the energy spreads, not just weakening your body, but breaking the emotional and spiritual bonds that hold you together. This is where Stoicism again offers a profound lifeline. When your outer world turns chaotic, The Stoics remind us to turn inward, not to escape, but to strengthen. Marcus Aurelius taught that we must never surrender the fortress of our mind. Even when those around you seem to shift and change without reason, you must hold to clarity. Ask, is this really mine? Are these emotions, these suspicions truly born from within? Or are they shadows cast by something trying to distort your judgment? If your relationships are crumbling in a pattern that defies reason, don't dismiss it as chance. Pay attention. This could be a targeted dismantling of your emotional foundation, designed to leave you weakened for what comes next. And in our next sign, you'll see exactly how that vulnerability begins to manifest in your material world. Number 3, financial and career blockages. Now, let's explore the third sign, one that often hits the hardest and leaves the deepest scars: the unexplained collapse of financial stability and career momentum. This isn't about a tough season or a bad investment. It's about a persistent pattern that makes no logical sense, where every step forward seems to be met with an invisible hand pulling you 2 steps back. If you've ever felt like your efforts are solid, your plans are sound, and your execution is disciplined, yet your progress is mysteriously blocked, what you're dealing with may be more than just bad timing or coincidence. It may be a deliberate interference with your prosperity. When a black magic attack targets your finances or career, the timing is rarely random. These setbacks don't strike when you're already down. They strike right when you're rising. The contract is ready to sign, and suddenly it falls through. A new client is eager to begin, then vanishes without warning. You pass all stages of an interview only to hear nothing again. It feels calculated, and it is. The aim is to keep you just below the threshold of success, just outside the circle of breakthrough, where you're stuck in the exhausting loop of almost. Over time, these disruptions do more than hurt your wallet. They begin to erode your confidence. When repeated failure comes in spite of discipline, planning, and hard work, a man begins to question his value. You start wondering if you've lost your touch, if maybe you're no longer relevant, or worse, if you never truly deserved the success you were chasing. And this is precisely where the deeper damage takes root. The attack isn't just meant to stop your income, it's meant to infect your self-perception, to make you shrink, to make you settle. What makes these financial blockages such a powerful sign of energy-based interference is how they persist, regardless of how smart, cautious, or experienced you are. You follow the advice of trusted experts. You adjust your strategy. You do the work. But nothing changes. Or worse, it gets worse. Opportunities fall apart for absurd reasons. Deals that should close never do. Unexpected costs drain your savings the moment you start rebuilding. It's like being locked in a loop that you can't explain and can't escape. This is why Stoicism matters now more than ever. Because when external progress stalls, the Stoic turns inward. He examines not just the events, but the meaning he assigns to them. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's not just theory, it's strategy. When the world seems to conspire against you, your first line of defense is not to push harder outward, but to get sharper inward, to protect your clarity, to observe patterns without panic, to refuse despair even when your plans collapse. If you're noticing a cycle of inexplicable financial blockages, repeating patterns of last-minute failure, and a creeping sense of unworthiness despite your best efforts, you're not imagining it. This may be the third sign of a spiritual attack, one that aims to limit not just your wealth, but your freedom, your options, and your will to try again. The good news? Once you recognize the pattern, you can begin to break it. And in the next sign, we'll examine how this influence moves even deeper into your thoughts, your perceptions, and your very sense of what's real. Number 4, nightmares and disturbing mental intrusions. Close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, but to remember. Think back to the dreams you've had over the past few weeks. Have they shifted? Have you found yourself waking up in the middle of the night, gripped by something you couldn't explain? An image, a presence, a sensation that felt far too real to dismiss. Not the typical anxiety dreams about being late or unprepared, but something darker. Dreams where you're being pursued, where you're trapped in unfamiliar places, where shadows move just outside your field of vision and faceless figures observe you in silence. These dreams leave more than a foggy memory. They leave a weight on your chest, a strange heaviness that lingers long after morning. Now shift to your waking life. Have there been thoughts creeping into your mind that feel foreign? Ideas that disturb you, not because they're intense, but because they don't feel like they're yours. Sudden flashes of anger, hopelessness that appears out of nowhere, intrusive images or impulses that make you stop and think, where did that come from? That's not like me. If this sounds familiar, then you may be facing the fourth and most intimate form of a spiritual attack: the invasion of your mental space. And unlike physical fatigue or financial setbacks, this kind of disturbance is more difficult to detect because it hides inside the one place you've always assumed was yours: your own mind. Black magic, in its most advanced form, doesn't just interfere with what happens around you. It begins to manipulate what happens within you. Practitioners of energetic manipulation often work through thought forms, constructed energies specifically designed to infiltrate your subconscious. And the most vulnerable entry point? Your dream state. When your conscious mind rests, when your logic and willpower are quiet, your subconscious becomes exposed. It's here, through symbols, strange figures, and surreal distortions, that these energies begin to take root. You may notice recurring dreams where you're being watched, or where you're being hunted. Dreams involving distorted versions of people you know, or strange symbols, dark animals, unfamiliar landscapes, locked rooms. These aren't random. They're signatures of something trying to gain ground where you're weakest, and it doesn't stop when you wake. Thoughts begin to bend. Your clarity diminishes. You become less certain of yourself. A Stoic would say, this is the ultimate breach, not because you've lost control of your outer world, but because your inner world has become compromised. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If those thoughts are not truly yours, if they are seeded by something external, your soul begins to darken without even realizing why. This is why the Stoic path is not just about self-discipline. It is about defense. Mental sovereignty is the highest form of power, and when your thoughts begin to feel foreign, when your dreams betray you, it is time not to panic, but to ground yourself. Reflect, observe without fear. Reclaim your mind by becoming aware of every thought, every influence. The Stoic does not control the storm, but he does refuse to let the storm control him. If your mental peace is under siege, if your dreams have become battlegrounds, this may be the fourth sign of a spiritual attack. And as we move to the final sign, you'll see how, once the mind is compromised, The final assault moves towards shaping the very reality you see. Number 5. Synchronistic warnings and energetic disturbances. The fifth and final sign is one many people dismiss until the feeling becomes impossible to ignore. These are synchronistic warnings, subtle but persistent patterns that hint something beneath the surface has gone wrong. They start small. Maybe you begin seeing the same number or symbol repeatedly, in the news, on receipts, on license plates. You chalk it up to coincidence. Then something else strange happens. You walk into your home, and although nothing has changed, the air feels different, heavier, oppressive. Rooms that once felt familiar now seem unfamiliar. Then there's the sensation that you're not alone. Even when you are, you feel eyes on your back, a presence you can't explain. You brush it off until it happens again and again. For some, it shows up through animals. A neighbor's dog that once wagged its tail now growls when you pass. Birds gather at your windows in unusual numbers. These aren't superstitions, they're signals. The human energy field responds to interference, and in these moments, it's your own system trying to alert you. This is your inner compass pointing towards something your mind can't yet articulate. The signs don't care what you believe. Whether you're religious, spiritual, or skeptical, the patterns emerge all the same. That's the unsettling part. This phenomenon transcends ideology. I recall the story of Thomas, a retired Marine living quietly in Oregon, grounded, practical, not easily shaken. After the death of his father, he began restoring the old family cabin. At first, it was peaceful. But then came the strange occurrences. Tools vanished and reappeared. The same black feather showed up on the porch 3 days in a row. His dog began refusing to enter the house, sleeping outside instead. Then came the dreams. Dark, vivid, echoing with voices. Thomas tried to rationalize it all, but as the weeks passed, he couldn't deny the tension building in the space. He described it as if the cabin itself had turned against him. Only later, through spiritual intervention from a trusted healer, did he discover an old ritual mark etched into the stone foundation, left decades ago during a family dispute. Something dormant had been reawakened. The Stoics taught us that the world operates according to nature, cause, and effect. But they also warned that we must sharpen our perceptions. Marcus Aurelius urged us not to be deceived by appearances, to pay attention. Stoicism doesn't ask us to believe in omens. It asks us to remain alert to pattern, to instinct, to intuition. These synchronistic warnings are not metaphysical fluff. They are psychological and energetic indicators that something is encroaching on your inner world. When you look back and see all 5 signs, chronic fatigue, broken relationships, blocked prosperity, mental invasion, and now environmental synchronicities, it becomes impossible to claim this is just bad luck. It is coordinated. It is deliberate. But recognition is the first step toward freedom. You are not powerless. And in what comes next, we'll explore exactly how you can reclaim your space, your energy, and your inner clarity through discipline, discernment, and the timeless wisdom of the Stoics. The liberation techniques. What I'm about to share with you is not bound to any one religion or spiritual path. These principles work regardless of your background because they are rooted in universal energy dynamics, something far deeper and more fundamental than belief. Just as gravity doesn't ask if you understand it before pulling you to the ground, the energetic forces influencing your life operate with or without your consent. But the moment you become aware, you regain the power to push back. Begin with your environment. Salt has been used for centuries across cultures to purify spaces, not because of superstition, but because of its natural crystalline structure, which can absorb and neutralize disruptive frequencies. Dissolve sea salt in warm water and wash down the thresholds of your home, the doorways, windows, the floors you walk on daily. As you do, set your intent with seriousness. Energy follows thought, and the act of cleansing paired with focused attention begins to reclaim the boundaries of your space. Next, bring awareness to your breath. Your breath is your most immediate connection to life and to your nervous system. Deep, rhythmic breathing alters your brainwaves, calms the body, and strengthens the field around you. Inhale slowly, visualizing a protective force filling your body. Hold, and as you exhale, release any foreign energy. Do this regularly, and you build a fortress that can't be seen, but can be felt. Before sleep, take a moment to mentally cut ties with the emotional residue of the day. Picture any draining connections, conflicts, regrets, judgments being severed cleanly. These cords are real. They're how energy clings to you long after a conversation ends. Cutting them is not cruelty, it is self-respect. And finally, live in a higher state. Not through delusion, but through choice. The Stoics knew that gratitude, discipline, and clarity raise the mind above the chaos of the world. When you consistently elevate your thoughts, harmful energy has nothing to anchor itself to. It cannot reach you where you refuse to descend. The first act of freedom is to decide you will no longer be passive in your own life. From this moment, you become your own guardian. Ignoring this moment would be like finding the antidote and choosing not to take it. Don't let the forces working against you keep the upper hand. Your future self, the one living with clarity, peace, and unshakable protection, will look back at this moment with gratitude. So take a breath, click that next video, and if you found value here, subscribe now. Not just because it helps the channel, but because it keeps this stream of life-saving wisdom flowing directly to you. We're building a fortress together, stone by stone, video by video. And you, my friend, have just placed the first one. Stay strong, stay awake, and I'll see you on the other side.